Welcome to Behind the Locked Doors, a motivational chat between friends we just happen to record and make into a podcast. I'm your host, Sam Stark. I am missing my two other cohorts as they are... it's been an interesting 2025 already, so hopefully Scott and Jack will be with us again soon. Instead, I have a special treat for you all. I have my very good friend and co-star Interiority here with me today. Say hi, Interiority.
Hi, Interiority.
I knew you were going to do that. So, okay, so full disclosure. We've already done this once, but then my audio completely shit the bed. So here we go, take two.
And it was a banger of an episode as well. I mean,
really
you really missed out.
I really fucked up. But it's funny because he did that before too. So I was expecting him to do that, and yeah. But anyway,
I'll try and keep you on your toes from now on. Like, that's the only gimme you're going to get.
Excellent. Okay, so you are familiar with our very loose format here, where we talk about what we are currently working on or have accomplished recently, and then towards the end we set our goals for the next time we record, which maybe possibly, crossing fingers, might be all four of us, which would be cool. But let's start really quick because, again, we're just doing this for the second time. Tell us about the storm, and I'm also very happy that you're not in Oz right now or barreling through the sky somewhere.
Thank you. I did my best to avoid that if I could. No, it's slightly less of a news story now that it's occurred, because last time we recorded, I was hours away from, I think, one of the baddest storms that we've had in the UK for quite some time, like a couple of decades at least. So I was obviously making jokes that I would get blown away, my house would have its roof torn off, and trees would be flying everywhere, etc., etc. And in the end, it was a storm that kind of took away the power for most of the people on the island of Ireland. Like, I think it's like half of all households, maybe 2/3, had a power cut. Yeah. It wasn't a fun time. A lot of trees getting knocked down, a lot of disruption, buildings damaged, etc., etc., including my own roof, which has had some damage to it. So yes, as a fairly new homeowner, I'm really looking forward to a roofing bill. But yeah, it's apart from that, nothing else too bad. Like, I was not blown away. No trees landed on me. It's all good.
Awesome. I'm very glad to hear it. And actually, when I thought about it, I was like, I mean, being in Oz, like, I hope you're not in Oz, Interiority. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, actually, I mean, maybe that would be cool. So I don't know.
I would rock a pair of ruby slippers. So, I mean, come on, like, tell me you can't see me in them, like just in your mind's eye.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay.
I've got the calves for it. Sorry. Let's continue.
Okay, so trying to keep myself on track here. Okay, so you have a couple of really amazing projects in the pipe right now that we would love to hear about, or as much as you can tell us about them.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I mean, the listeners probably know who I am, generally speaking, right?
Probably, yeah.
I was in the audio actual play that we did for an RPG called Unspeakable Distance. It was a year or so ago now.
Oh my God, what is time? I have no idea.
But that was something I participated in along with Sam and Jack, and I originated the character of Simmons in that. And we had a lot of interaction between our things, and obviously this has led to the genesis of the idea for Aslan West. So I'm looking forward to hopefully reprising the role of Simmons in that sometime in the future.
Yes.
But yeah, this is my connection to the whole behind the locked doors sort of thing. Outside of that, I write audio fiction, and I'm basically in the process of creating my own sci-fi series. I'm currently writing the episodes as we speak and getting the production company set up and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm hoping at some point this year to release a show called Sundered, which is a sci-fi audio drama, which is very loosely based on my pandemic trauma and working through that. But also such themes as disability and what we owe each other in society, and colonialism. And as you can probably tell from all of that, it is a comedy. So yeah, got to look forward to that. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about it, because I've been writing for a number of different shows in the past, anthologies and things like that, and this is the first time I'm actually setting out with a concept of my own, and I'm very excited about it and very much looking forward to it. So yeah,
I am too. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. And then I've got a bit of other work on the side, bits and pieces, and I'm currently working on a as yet unannounced project for Bloody FM with Pacific Obadiah. I am a massive wuss, so why I'm writing for Bloody FM and their team of truly horrible people with really twisted imaginations, I don't know. I can barely sleep at night, but I'm trying to bring my own spin to it, which is to completely undermine all of the horror and just make it as silly as possible. I think that's going to work out great. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing. I've never really done like a commercial production for like an actual podcasting network or platform before. So kind of the adjustment to that has been very, very interesting, rather than just kind of like being somebody who just wanders in, does a bit of world building, writes a script, messes around in Discord for a while. I'm having to do stuff like write art briefs for fairly well-known artists, and like just rock myself back and forth through the imposter syndrome that comes with that. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's really interesting, and hopefully I'll pick up some of the twisted horror sensibilities of the people around me while I'm doing it. Because I know you're a horror freak, Sam.
I am. I'm a huge horror freak. I feel though like these spaces where these horror stories are being written and created, we need people that aren't totally desensitized by everything, because we need people that are going to be sort of disturbed by it, or are going to be sort of scared to, make sure that it works. Because I could write a horror thing, or any of my friends that are into horror could write a horror thing, or read a horror thing, or watch a horror thing, and they're like, yeah, that was cool. And like we don't actually have like a barometer for like where is actually scary or not. So it's good to have the more like non-horror folks kind of helping with that. And since you are so good at the dichotomy of comedy and seriousness, I think that whatever you are cooking up for Bloody FM is going to be freaking amazing, and it's going to have that feel that you usually have in your stuff, where you'll 1 second you'll be laughing because whatever's happening is so funny and what they're saying is so ridiculous, but then it will very quickly shift to something more serious and kind of profound, and you'll kind of have to think about stuff, but then it'll switch back to being hilarious like 2 seconds later. So
yeah,
I'm
tonal
sure
dissonance is my trademark. Yeah,
it really is. It really you're so good at it.
Yeah, well, it's not really something to be proud of. Like just can't make up my mind what genre I'm in at any particular point. No, I do kind of agree. Like I think it's interesting coming into like a sphere which is obviously audio drama's got a lot of horror in it, and some of the most popular shows are in that. Like coming into it as someone who isn't traditionally kind of into that sort of stuff and trying to create is very, very interesting. And I think there is some value that I can bring to it. I mean, obviously, I'm not familiar with all of the tropes and the ways of doing stuff, so I will probably understandably blunder into stuff that's been done like dozens and dozens of times before. But hopefully I will do that in a way which is a little bit different, and I'll do it in a way that I'm not afraid, just because I'm ignorant. So, like it kind of gives a slightly different approach to stuff. But as a lot of my colleagues say, kind of like in their opinion, like horror and comedy go hand in hand.
They do.
Horror doesn't work if it's all one note or if it's all running on the same level. You've got to be able to vary that up to actually kind of get the impact of the stuff which is truly horrific. And having kind of comedy alongside it works really well, especially if it's something which endears the characters involved in the stories to the audience, which then makes the horrible stuff they're going through hit even harder, because obviously you then care about these consequences and the stuff that's happening to them, rather than just the horror protagonists. They're going to make stupid decisions. They're going to get torn limb from limb. Yawn. It's. But and try, obviously then, like hopefully kind of like like by building kind of like characters that are robust and have facets, then it just gives the really interesting kind of option of trying to tailor the horror to say something about the people themselves, or like use it as a commentary on something larger which is affecting them, rather than it just be kind of like, oh, it's a scary clown.
Yeah.
It's actually saying something. It's kind of meaningful, and I think and that's the hook that's kind of dragging me in a bit. I'm kind of going, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And then if I can do that to make things really fucking tragic and make people cry, then all the better, because that's what I want.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm just vibrating in my booth right now. I'm so happy.
That was a very long-winded way of saying yes. I'm a horror weenie, and but I'm trying my best.
I really understand though the being worried about being ignorant of the genre, because I think I've talked a little bit on this podcast about how I'm not a sci-fi guy, and
Yes.
I just some of it's so when you like sci-fi and you are in it and you think up like what I watch these conversations in one of our Discord channels about like mechs and kind of just fun sci-fi things on like how parts of a ship work and blah blah blah, and it's like that's never something that I've been I like it, but I've never, but it's like Star Wars level. Like I don't really get into it, and I don't really read any hard sci-fi, none of that. If you want to talk to me about world building for fantasy, I could do that all day. But if you want to talk to me about like ships, like hyperdrives, like I can do gobbledygook like Star Trek, I guess, but I really it's very difficult for me to make a conversation that West has realistic and sound like he knows what he's talking about, because I just don't have any idea. And so I am constantly worried that I'm going to, because of my ignorance, and I'm not going to know tropes, I'm not going to know stuff. And it's lucky that my character is very silly, because he can use gobbledygooky words and Az can respond with like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's fine. So I can kind of hide some of my ignorance in there, but I do also have Scott and Jack to help me.
You've got support, and they're a very valuable resource, and obviously you've got a lot of the other members of the Library of Cursed Knowledge Discord,
definitely,
because they've all got insights. I mean, some of them are very, very much into this sort of thing, which is quite useful.
Yes,
I was going to say, like, I immediately knew you weren't like a sci-fi sort of guy. Like the time I gave you some dialogue, which is quite heavy on all the stuff, and like I think like I believe you kind of like blue screened a little bit, like you really were not sure about what it was I was trying to get you to say, and I was like, it's okay, it's fine, we'll walk through this, it's cool.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I don't, like me personally, I don't feel like I sit in the place of someone who's very well versed in a lot of the sci-fi tropes. Like I'm not a huge reader of like hard sci-fi. I'm trying to do that more. I'm trying to be as diligent in my world building as I can. But what draws me to sci-fi is mainly kind of like a chance to kind of like, it's a new stage to just put characters on and explore problems which are prevalent in our like day-to-day normal modern day lives, but in a way that I can get to play around it and in a little bit more and talk about it in an interesting way, in a grander scale perhaps, or kind of like just amp things up just a little bit, and so my focus is very much on the characters and the character interactions, and like if I put them in a world which operates a little bit like this, how are they going to play? I don't really kind of involve myself too much in figuring out all the details of stuff, how it works. But what I'm rapidly finding out is that I really do need to do a level of diligence with my world building and make sure that it makes sense. Even if I'm not saying everything on the page, which I am very much not. I'm very much someone who would prefer not to explain every single concept or piece of technology or stuff that comes up within the fiction.
Yeah.
But I need to make sure that what it is I'm talking about in the world as I imagine it, it works and hangs together for me.
Yeah.
because what that does is it allows me to go, I can just drop these characters into this situation, and then what they're going to do, and it plays out naturally in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, if there's like, oh, actually there's a massive contradiction there, then that's like a roadblock for me. That's like, oh crap, I'm not really sure where to go with this anymore because the world doesn't work. And everything just kind of grinds to a halt, and I need to find a way to kind of grease the wheels, or like hand wave something, or ideally like find something that kind of makes it all kind of like just mesh together and continue onwards. So,
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. Like it's finding that middle ground, I think, and like not being too afraid to say I don't know exactly how this works, but I just know that the effect that it has on these characters and the society they're in means that this happens, which is either the thing that you want or the nice surprise which you then throw into the script.
Yeah. I think that is what you're talking about is the plight of many a discovery writer or a pantser, because I come up against that all the time. And you're telling your story, you're putting your characters through the story that you want to put them through, and then you suddenly are like, oh, wait a minute, how long would that actually take to cook? Like, just very little things just in your world, and you have to kind of stop and be like, oh, okay. And when it's something fantasy, it's so much easier to just sort of make it up. You can magic, it doesn't matter. And I feel like in sci-fi, it's like, oh, I have to actually think about like, this is actually radiation or whatever, and or like how long it takes to grow this plant in a special thermo sealed blah blah blah. See, I can't even think of something as an example. So
I mean,
but you get what I'm saying. Like you do have to build it out. You have to, otherwise you come to a roadblock. And I'm the same way. If I come to something that sort of it stalls the entire thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, when we last recorded this, I'm sorry, listeners, you won't get to hear that. We did kind of like talk about our approaches to writing and kind of the like how we kind of get into things, and like the way I'd like to approach it is that I have a rough idea of kind of like the things that I want to have happen in the world, like as kind of like waypoints, like like milestones. So it's like like roughly at this point in the story, like this this event is going to happen, and I would like to get there if I can. But what I generally will do is like I'll have like a set of starting conditions, and then have a rough idea of the characters, and then just throw them in, and just kind of go through the scenarios either through writing on the page or in my head usually. Like I'll play out kind of like, well, if they're here and this is happening to them and they're with these people, how does that sound? Like, what are they going to talk about? Like, where's the conversation going to go? What the decision's going to be made? What's the emotions they're going to be feeling? And then that's generally how it goes. So I don't tend to lead my characters by the nose. I just kind of give them the set of starting conditions and just see where they go. So yeah, it's kind of interesting when you're a pantser in that sense, and discovering things on the go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same way. I
Yeah.
have the scene, or I have a specific scenario that I want to have happen, and I'll base my entire story around that one scene. I've done it several times for several different, very, very long forms of writing. So
Yes.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yes. But I will say as a counterpoint to all your protestations about not being good at this, your entries for Unspeakable Distance, which I would highly recommend anyone who's listening to this who hasn't gone back and heard like all of the Sergeant West episodes that Sam did for that series. Go back and listen to them, because they are fantastic. Like they are really incredibly well realized. Like the world building is great, and the characterization within that is fantastic. And like the extent that you went to kind of like bring in kind of additional elements to kind of help flesh it out, like really astonished me. Like I had like a little bit of a window into the production going on behind it, but I was surprised on a regular basis, and I was like, oh no, I need to up my game. Like
We were scene
I'm
partners. For anybody
Yeah,
that doesn't know, the actual play is messaging between two people, and interiority was the person that I was was messaging to back and forth. So it was like a long form conversation,
and also a competition, like trying to just one up each other, which I thought I was winning at one point until
Well, I felt the same way though, because you would write these absolutely hilarious, but also so sad. They were so profoundly sad, and it was so good. I live for like horror comedy and funny sad with a slash in between. I love that shit. And every single episode of yours was like, here I am, Simmons, being so cute, and I'm just a cinnamon roll of a person, and everybody loves me, and then this terrible thing that's happening, I'm having to cope with it, and it's really terrible. And did I mention that it's really terrible? And I was like, oh, it's so good. So, I mean, I don't think it was a competition because we both were super awesome and it was great. And I love what we did. I love
Yes.
so much what we did. And I'm so excited that I get to
Yes.
expand that world and bring
Yes. Yeah,
in
I'm so
everybody
looking forward
else.
to it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I think obviously, what we need to say to all the listeners is if you haven't listened to Unspeakable Distance, then why are you listening to this?
Yeah.
Like, go and listen to
Stop
that
right
now.
now and go
Yeah.
do that. So we made it through all of the basic questions and all of the what we're working on right now stuff, and we have not
Yeah.
talked about The Simpsons. So
No,
I
we
don't
didn't.
know if we
We did
should
about
do
half an
that.
hour of that. Yeah, last time.
The first time we recorded this episode, we just talked about Simpsons for like 15 minutes, and I'm not even exaggerating. Um, we also I'm planning on. I've now asked her, so I can officially announce this. I
Hey.
have asked Mel, another one of our co-stars, lovely person, to come on as a guest and talk to us about her new project, which Interiority and I are actually both on. So that's gonna be really fun. And she's going to give us the secrets of how to write an entire podcast season in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I would really like to know that because I think the other alternative is that Mel isn't actually fully human, which, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
like wouldn't surprise me too much at this point. Um, but yeah, like so yeah, I want to get to the bottom of that, if at
Yeah,
all possible.
yeah. So look forward to that.
And also, I really want to quiz her about kind of like why she's decided to make my character like largely non-verbal
Oh my
in
god.
this show. Like I just like what was the driving creative force between kind of like giving me like like 5 words to say. Yeah, it's fine.
But
It's
those
cool, Mal.
5 words are
It's
gonna be
cool.
so
It's
good.
cool,
I'm
Mal.
so
It's cool. It's
excited.
fine. It's
Yeah,
fine, Mal.
there's your little preview for what we're gonna talk about probably next time or the time after that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna debut my Werner Herzog impression, which I'm gonna insist on doing all of my lines in. You'll understand the relevancy of that when you actually hear the series.
oh,
But
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Um, what would you like to try and accomplish before we get together again?
Well, I think last time I said I didn't want to be like blown away in a hurricane, and I feel
That's
like
true.
I've achieved that. Like so, like I set a fairly low bar for myself. Um, I think obviously I would like to make some good progress on my show. I'm currently in the process of trying to get the first draft of the first episode really nailed down. It's probably going to be like a double length episode, but I'm really going to be using it as like a foundational building block for the rest of the show that I'm going to be telling, because obviously I'm a discovery writer, so if I can get as much like hard foundation down in the first episode, I feel like it'll be a lot easier to build on that and create the rest without the constant worry that I've made a mistake somewhere, I'm going to need to change that, which will then necessitate another 9 episodes to be changed afterwards.
Mm,
So yeah, so I'm hoping to get that first episode, at least first draft of it done, and in a state where I feel confident that I can show it to other people. Possibly not in a state where I'm like, this is final. I don't want to make any more changes to it. More like, like I know this is crap, but like, could you read it and tell me if there's anything of worth in there, just so I can kind of continue onwards.
hmm
So yeah, getting that into a place where I feel good about showing it to other people would be nice.
Excellent.
So I'm hopeful I'll be able to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have almost the exact same goal. I talked about on the podcast a few times that I was going to hand off everything to Jack, and they were going to write the first couple episodes because I had a whole bunch of other projects that I was working on, and I was very, very full up. I didn't have a lot of time. but I have learned how to schedule a little bit better,
Hooray!
and I am taking more breaks, and I'm taking days off once in a while, which is really nice. And I have time now, so I will take back the reins, I guess, and I will be. Before we meet again, I'm going to try and have at least a rough draft, something that I can give to people to read. Definitely not in any way polished in any form, at all, but something that people can read, like an actual story. By the time we get together again, which I think is going to be 2 Thursdays from now, I think. Yes. And yeah, get some feedback on it. Probably
Yeah.
just the first, because we decided to make the pilot like a double episode. And I think
Yes.
that just to keep my sanity, it's just going to be the first half of that pilot. Maybe I'll put some
Right.
notes for the second one, but
Yeah.
I'm just doing the first half.
Cool. I would like to add on another goal for myself.
Ooh.
I would like to have perfected my Scott Paladin impression by the next time we're out. Like, I don't think we'll actually have Scott on the episode, but I want to get in a position where, should Scott show up, I'm able to essentially insult him to his face.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, I like it. Like it's. I've been teasing this for a while, and like it's done very much with love. But yeah, like I would very much like to have an episode where both Scott and Jack are here, and I get to try out a truly atrocious American accent.
It's it's amazing. That's
Yeah.
gonna be so exciting.
Yeah. I just want to hear Jack laugh. That's what I live for. Like I've said this before. Like like Jack's laugh is like is like my lifeblood. It's the oxygen I need to keep going.
The dopamine shot straight to your brain.
Exactly, yes. So yeah, if I can if I can make Jack laugh, then it just makes the year like worthwhile. So fingers crossed we get to do that. Yeah.
I feel you. I'm going to add a little segment onto the end of this that I think we did once or twice, but I really like this. Do you have anything right now that you are reading or watching or whatever that you would like to recommend to the listeners?
Oh, good Lord. You can't just drop that on me.
Yes, I can. I just did.
No, how dare you?
I can actually go first.
Okay, yep, please do. Please do.
I right now am reading a book called Nether Station. It is by Kevin J. Anderson. If that name sounds familiar, he is the guy that's written a lot of he does like Star Wars and StarCraft and X-Files books, and he's the author of the Dune prequels. And so even if you haven't read his stuff, you've probably been in circles where people know who he is. Anyway, it's a space horror, because that is how I that's how I read sci-fi, is if it's got a element of very like lots and lots of dread and existential dread and cosmic horror, I think is what the term for what this is.
Ooh, nice.
I do enjoy a crew in space so far away from Earth that they're basically lost, and the weird stuff is happening. So I'm only about 120 pages into it, because I started it like yesterday, but so far it's awesome. And if you love sci-fi horror, you might want to check it out.
That sounds very cool. I was a massive Star Wars EU like nerd, like in my youth. Yeah, and Kevin J. Anderson is a name I very much recognize. So yeah, that's I'm tempted. Okay, so what I will say is it's a little bit of a cop out, but quite recently I had the opportunity to present a show called Podmash, which is a very nice idea, which is basically kind of people get like you creatives, like people who do their own audio dramas, or actors, or like sound designers, editors, things like that, get a chance to basically shout out an audio drama that they really like, that they're not involved in. So they get to introduce an episode, get to talk for 10 minutes about why it's so good, and then like they get to curate an episode to give to people. And it's a really lovely way of kind of like spreading kind of like knowledge of what's out there, because there's a lot of shows, and like not everyone's got a lot of time. So it's quite nice to kind of have these sorts of kind of like personalized recommendations come through. So I did one recently for a show which I really like, which is called Traveling Light, which is a very cozy sort of sci-fi show, which is essentially kind of a travel log. But it's really nice because it's very humanist. It's very warm, but it's also not like saccharine or just too kind of like what would be the word, like just like too sugary, like too sweet. It's got a spine of kind of actually kind of like commenting on the world as we see it, albeit in a sci-fi setting, but really kind of like leaning into kind of like everyone being kind of like their own kind of complex character, having their own foibles and things like that, but also like a core of goodness within them. So yeah, that's really been kind of like one of the things I've been listening to a lot, just to kind of get me through the horror that we're all experiencing at the moment. I don't really know what else to.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
It's totally what I was asking for.
I'm sorry, that was really incoherent, given that I actually presented a show about it and spoke at length about why it was a good. Like, why I wasn't able to summon that in the moment, I have no idea. But there we go. Please go and listen to my Podmash episode. I'm far better in it than I am right here. I wrote a script and everything.
Amazing. Yeah, go check it out. I listened to it. It's very good.
Thank you, son.
So yeah, I think that we're about at time. So we already went through our goals. We already went through.
I'm certainly sick of my own voice right now. So I think everyone else is way beyond that. At this point. So yeah, we've gone through goals. I've teased you at least once, which is another thing that I set out to do.
Yeah, you have to. It's very important. Yeah. So I think we're good. Cool. Interiority and I will definitely be back next week. Hopefully we have at least one of the rest of our group, but maybe both of them. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. But also we might have Mel sometime. Maybe next time or the time after. So
yeah,
everybody have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk at you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Locked Doors. If you are interested in any of these or previous projects, you can head over to library.horse, which will direct you to the Library of Cursed Knowledge website. If you would like to support the show, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/cursed knowledge. Thank you again, and see you all soon.